Check out that M4 ahead of us. Wonder who owns that beautiful car. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's car review. This week I am reviewing the 2015 Audi S3, and it is a beautiful sunny day here in Westchester County in New York. And sunny days are great for getting a tan, but not so great for doing car reviews because you get the sun and the lenses and harsh shadows, but we'll be fine. The only other problem I've got is that I forgot to bring a Gorilla. What type of amateur car reviewer forgets to bring his Gorilla? So neither William or Albert are with me today, so I'll have to do this all on my own. What are we going to do? Well, first of all, I'm going to take this left here, and first of all, I'm going to talk about the specifications of this car. And this particular car is a Daytona Launch Edition model, which they only sold 350 of. So I'll take you over what that entails, what extra bits you get with that. But then we're going to compare this car with other cars in the same price, performance, size brackets. Other cars people that would be thinking of getting S3 might also consider. There's not many of those here in the US, but there's a lot of options if you're outside of the US. And then we are going to have a look around the outside of the car. Then we're going to have a look around the inside of the car, including the myriad of options this particular vehicle's got. And finally, we're going to take it for a spin, and we might even try a bit of launch control and a few other bits and pieces. This particular review, I've switched back to using a lavalier mic to make my voice clearer. I used to use the lavalier, then I went to a shotgun mic to try and get more sound of the car, but it was causing other sound issues, so hopefully this new sound setup will be better. I'm going to try and get some more external shots of the car in this review. I'm just always trying to improve my reviews. The biggest critic of my reviews is myself. Every time I look at one of my own reviews, I go, I could have done so much better. So this review, I'm going to try and do a good job. And it's not a good start that I forgot the Gorillas. Oh well, we'll cope. Anyway, so on with the review. So first up, what is an S3? Well, an S3, of course, is this more sporting model of the A3. With an Audi range, it's always A, S, and then RS is the top of the line. So the S is always going to be more powerful, bigger brakes, more gadgets inside than an A model, and of course more expensive. I am not going to go over the specifics of the A3 again. I did a review of the A3 2 weeks ago, and if you want to see the details of that, have a look at that review first. In fact, I recommend watching the A3 review because I go over a lot of things I'm not going to cover in this review, in that review. So watch the A3 review first and then come back to this review. So yeah, the S3 is a more powerful model. This one's got the 2-litre turbo engine in it, but it's producing 290 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque. It comes standard with 18-inch wheels with an option of 19-inch wheels. The fuel economy is pretty good at 2331. In the US, it comes standard with the 6-speed dual clutch gearbox, and other markets you can get the manual. And it's pretty light. 3,450 pounds is the weight of the car. And out of interest, its bigger brother, the S4, is almost 500 pounds heavier. So it's a pretty spry little car. For that much power and that little weight, it certainly has a decent turn of speed, and that's reflected in its 0 to 60 time. Its official 0 to 60 time is 4.7 seconds, but all the car magazines that have reviewed it can get 4.3, 4.4 out of it, so we'll say 4.4 seconds 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. This particular car is a Daytona Launch Edition, special edition, special color, special details inside, and we'll go over those details later in the review. Only 350 Daytona launch editions were made here in the US, so it's kind of a special model within a special model. I guess the first thing people would consider when getting an S3 is whether or not they should just go up one and get an S4. And right now, you know, as much as I love the S4, I would probably go for an S3 because it includes all the modern gear, all the modern navigation, all the modern MMI system. The S3 is actually a faster car than the S4, even though the S4's got the Turbo 6 that produces 333 horsepower. You'd think that would be a faster car, but because it's so much heavier, this car's actually faster off the mark, and because it's so much lighter, I'm sure it handles a little better than the S4 as well. So what other car would I consider when buying the S3? Well, you know, there's surprisingly few choices in this size car. You know, small, sporting, executive saloon, I guess is what I would call this car. Outside of the US, I think there's a lot more choice, but here in the US, small executive cars are really just starting to come onto the market, so there's not a lot. The first one I would consider, of course, is the Golf R, which is the twin brother to this car in a lot of ways. Same engine, same transmission, built on the same platform, same brakes. You know, it's basically this car in hatchback version with a Volkswagen badge, and because of that, it's a lot cheaper, $5,000 or $6,000 cheaper. So pretty tempting. Interesting. This car here in the US is only available in the saloon model, which is a shame because I would love to see the S3 in either the Sportback or the hatchback model. Particularly the hatchback model looks like a sort of an executive version of WRX, if you ask me. But yeah, as I've said in previous videos, hatchbacks just don't sell that well here in the US, so they're only going to bring the saloon in. I believe there's also a convertible S3 in other markets as well, and hopefully that will arrive in the US at some point. But yeah, so other than the Volkswagen, we've got the BMW M235i, which I did a review on the other week, and I'll put a link to that review here. The BMW, of course, is slightly more expensive, $43,000, has more power, the 320 horsepower engine, and that is a really lovely car and certainly would be a strong contender against the S3. Obviously the BMW doesn't have the four-wheel drive, but yeah, they're very similar cars in a lot of ways, certainly performance-wise. So yeah, I'd say the M235i is a strong contender for consideration if you're in this price bracket. And really the only other one would be the Mercedes-Benz CLA 45 AMG, which is a lot more expensive, $48,000 starting price, which is really just the beginning of the cost of that particular car, because the $48,000 stripped out version doesn't give you a lot. You need to add a few things just to bring it up to the same standard as the base S3. And even with a few options, the AMG quickly becomes late 50s, even $60,000. So in a way, the Mercedes-Benz AMG is not really in the same ballpark because it's very, very hard to get it in the same price bracket as the S3. However, it does come with a more powerful engine, 355 horsepower. It's pretty fast, 4.2 seconds is the official numbers, 0 to 60. So yeah, worth the consideration. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the shape of that car, and some of the interior bits are a little bit craggy. But yeah, the Volkswagen, the BMW, and the Mercedes are really the only other contenders within this sort of small executive sporty price bracket. Let's stop and take a look around the outside. This car is in Daytona Grey, which is part of the Daytona Launch Edition, this colour. Including in that Launch Edition that I mentioned earlier is these beautiful 19-inch wheels with performance tyres, the full LED headlights, the red brake calipers, and of course the black and red magma leather interior which we'll get to next when we take a look around the inside. Otherwise, how do you recognize an S3? Well, obviously it has S3 badges on the front and back. It has the 4 exhaust tailpipes, and it has more aggressive bodywork all round. It also has a slightly different grille and the aluminium look rear vision mirrors. So, onto the interior of this car. And I think the first thing you'd notice on entering this S3 is that is the black and magma red interior, which is a very nice colour to go with the Daytona grey on the outside. The magma red seats are not just the red inserts, but also deviated stitching, both on the seats, on the gear lever, and here on the steering wheel. Of course, red is a nice colour, and red stitching and red seats are always a nice colour on a Audi because there's so much other red going on within Audis, so it picks up those highlights. Otherwise, the interior of an S3 is much like an A3 in a lot of ways. The differences being, of course, you get S3 on the wheel, you get a flat bottom wheel, which seems to be the norm for sports cars these days. You get S3 on a tack, and you get this little boost gauge on the tack, which works well enough, but it doesn't actually tell you what boost pressure you're doing. It just tells you when you're boosting, which I guess is a nice gadget. Interestingly, the S3 gets only a 160 mile/hour speedometer, which is curious because while this car is limited to 155 theoretically, it's easy to take that limiter off and the car's capable of more than 160, probably about 175. So I'd be curious to see what the speedometer does if you hit over 170 miles an hour. Would it stop at 160 or would it go around to that fuel gauge there? If anyone's done that, let me know what happens. Otherwise, you know, it's pretty much like an A3 on the inside, which is not a bad thing at all. The A3, as I've said in the A3 review, is a very nice interior. You know, nice fat steering wheel with the 10 and 2 position. A roomy enough interior, but small, and it feels personal inside. You get the roof, which gives it a more airy feel. You know, it's really a pleasant place to be, the interior of this Audi S3. What are the options within the S3 range here in the US? Well, unlike the A3, there's only 2 packs. There's the Premium Plus and the Prestige. And they are similar in their options to the A3s in that the Premium Plus gives you the Xenon lights. I always get that around the wrong way because I'm a computer person. The leather seats, the sunroof, the drive select, both on here and on the steering wheel, which takes you through the drive modes, and the Bluetooth. Whereas the Prestige model, which is considerably more expensive at $47,000, gives you the full LED headlights, the MMI navigation, the B&O 705 watt ass-kicking stereo that will blast you out of the car, the Audi side assist, which is these little lights on the rear vision mirrors which warn you of cars in your blind spot, and the parking system you see here with the camera. All of these can be, or most of those can be optioned individually on the Premium Plus. There's also 2 other packages that you can get on top of the Prestige model. There's a $1,400 package called the Advanced Tech Pack, which gives you lane assist, which gives you a little warning if you're getting out of your lane, and also gives you the adaptive cruise control, which is a cool feature I had on my 911, which sends a little laser to the car in front of you and keeps a distance from the car in front of you. If the car increases in speed, you increase in speed, and then increases the distance a little bit. If they decrease the speed, then the car will brake and decrease the distance a little. It's a neat feature, but yeah, at $1,400 it's a lot. The other option is a $1,900 19-inch package, performance pack it's called, which gives you the 19-inch wheels that are on this car and the Audi magnetic ride, which is automatic dampening. It will adjust the dampening depending on the driving conditions you're going over. So $1,900 for that it's not a bad deal considering you get the wheels as well. Other than that, the only other real options on the Prestige is extra airbags in the back and other colour options. Okay, so finally the best part of the review, which is taking it for a spin. And you know, when I first got in this car, the first thing I noticed was it's smaller. You know, it's about 9 inches thinner and about 10 inches shorter than my M4. But that's not a bad thing. You know, I like smaller cars, they feel more nimble to me. And it's just a little bit lighter than my M4. It's about 80 pounds lighter than the M4. And I don't know that you feel that, but yeah, certainly if you, I think if you went from an S4, which is about 500 pounds heavier than the S3, you'd certainly feel the weight. But yeah, right away, I like the size of the car. As for the performance of the car, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a launch control start for you. So I'll insert that right here. There we go. Traction control off. Foot on the brake. Mash the gas. And we're away. Yeah. So yeah, launch control, a lot of fun in any car. So 290 horsepower, you know, it's a decent amount of power, especially for a car so small and light. But then you might say to me, well, Nick, you know, there's been cars around for a decade or two that have been producing 300 horsepower or more from 2-litre turbo engines, and that's true. But the difference between those cars, and you might be thinking of, say, like an Mitsubishi Evo 10 or some of the Subaru WRXs and so forth, the difference between those older 2-litre engines and their turbos and this car is that the response in this car is almost instant. In those older 2-litre big horsepower cars of yesteryear, you could put your foot down and then you could boil an egg before the turbo really took off. Whereas in this car, here I am cruising along at 40 miles an hour, and as soon as I put my foot down, it's away. It's an instant response. And even if I leave it in one gear, like if I drop down a gear, manual 4th gear, 3rd gear, you know, I don't have to wait for any turbo lag. It's instantly there, the power, which is what we like in our turbo engines. Not only that is, you know, we're getting a great sound out of this engine too. So what difference does the different drive modes make? Well, let's start with what we're in right now, comfort. And comfort gives you the most comfortable ride, of course. It gives a little bit more roll in the corners, and the steering will become so light. It's like when I could turn it with my finger. It's like those old Cadillacs, I think. So next we'll switch into auto. Dynamic mode. Dynamic mode is the more sporty mode, and right away you feel the steering stiffen up, and the dampeners stiffen up, and the throttle response is more instant. And then of course there's individual, which you can program the settings to your own liking. So, what's our verdict on the new S3? We like it! Plenty of power, nimble handling, great sounding engine, beautiful interior, good looking exterior, and just a lot of fun to drive. It really is a lot of fun to drive. You know, this DSG gearbox, this dual clutch gearbox, probably plays a big part in the performance in this car. You know, we all love manual transmissions, but this gearbox is so quick and so precise. I love whipping through the gears in this car. And you know, this car is small and light and handles so well. It's a very confidence-inspiring car to drive. And I like the sound. You know, this is another one of these cars that everyone's going to freak out about because it pipes sound in from the engine bay. But hey, cope with it. It's cool. It makes it sound nice inside. It's the way things are going. I don't mind. I think it sounds awesome inside. Sounds pretty good from the outside as well. There's not much not to like about this car. It's one of the best cars I've driven recently. Yeah, Audi have done a great job in putting this little S3 together. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching my S3 review. I've got a couple of great cars coming up soon, but I've also got some more helicopter reviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys will enjoy those. And thanks for watching again. And if you've got any comments, leave them below. Or if you have a car that you'd like me to review, or know of a car that you'd like me to review, then send me an email. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching again, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye then.